What's up, Nerfers, and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm taking a look at Springer Perilous, designed by Shoeless Historian at Flip Flop Foam Factory. Now, if you want to get one of these for yourself, hardware kits are available from Foamdemic, while complete builds are available from 3D Blasted Hawaii for around $250 US. I'll leave a bunch of links for this thing down below. Fundamentally, Shoeless Historian wanted to cram as many features as possible into this thing while keeping the cost low. So I'll begin the video by going over everything that makes this blaster unique. Then I'll do a chrono test, range test, and accuracy test.
First and foremost, the thing that probably stands out most to you visually is the sheer length of this blaster. From tip to butt measures 120 centimeters or 4 feet for my American viewers. But there's a very good reason for this. You see, Springer Perilous has an absolutely gargantuan plunger volume, where something like the Caliburn or the Saber Apex Prime has 145 cc's. This dwarfs all of those with 177. Even the Saber Ultima falls short of this thing at only 165 cc's. What that means is this blaster has the potential to be an absolute record breaker in velocity on the top end, and I'm sure some people will further optimize it to smash some records. However, the major benefit for players like Shoeless Historian who play at Nerf wars with no FPS limit is simply how easy this is to prime all day long while shooting 350 or even 400 FPS. Even for lower FPS players, this can do 300 FPS with a prime so light you'd think it's a stock blaster from a toy store like a Dart Zone Pro. Even this young kid here was able to prime something that's doing over 300 FPS. Now, Shoeless Historian sent me 3 different springs to try today. The weakest of those is called a K25, and it's averaging 333 feet per second with Dart Zone bamboos, which weigh 1 gram each. And the next one up from that, the K14, was averaging 424. So this is definitely putting out a lot of power. Springs can be swapped incredibly quickly with a turn of the rear spring cap, which also houses a thrust bearing, further lightening the effort required to prime the blaster. Up front, the barrel can be swapped out by loosening a locking nut. The barrel I've got in here is a 70 centimeter one from Kuriaka, but if you're only using K25, you could get away with something shorter, and you also don't need this front end extension past the pump grip if you don't want to, which would help shorten the length of the blaster overall if using, say, a 50 centimeter barrel. Personally, I don't mind the longer handguard with the longer barrel because it allows me to add a bipod on the bottom, which will be useful in my accuracy test later on. Shoeless also provided an adjustable string scar designed by chance, which attaches using an easy locking sleeve. So that's what I'll be using on here today. Now, being an adjustable string scar, I tried a few different settings and I found that 2 clicks from straight was the best, and that's also what was suggested to me by Shoeless. But you can of course adjust that to add as little or as much spin as you like. Inside the priming section of Springer Perilous, it might be a little hard to see, but it has linear rails up the top, like you might be familiar with from Saber's Apex Prime. This makes the prime smoother and easier than other 3D printed blasters, and you'll notice the typical scratching sound of 3D printed plastic on plastic only happens in the closed position where the pump grip wraps around the grey handguard joint. I'm not sure if it does make that scraping sound on the shorter version of the blaster. I'm guessing it would still make a tiny bit of a noise. Up top, the rear half of the pick rail has a 2-degree tilt to it, giving you a built-in sight correction for longer range shooting. I've never actually seen this included in a blaster before, but very handy to have rather than bottoming out your sight and still having to aim high for long ranges. Usually people would have to get an adjustable Picatinny adapter that sits between the sight and the pick rail. This, however, solves that problem entirely. Another major feature that stands out visually is the side magwell positioned in line with the grip. Without this, the blaster would be even longer than it already is because they'd have to find space to put a magwell somewhere in there. But it also allows the user to go fully prone with standard length mags, something you usually can't do without them hitting the ground and getting in the way. Finally, from a build quality perspective, I've got to say for a 3D printed blaster, this thing is really thick and really solid. For such a long platform with what I counted to be 13 different individual segments, there is minimal play between all of them thanks to 4 threaded rods that hold it all together. Overall, it weighs 2.5 kilos, giving it some good weight to it without being too heavy to hold up for long periods of time. Anyway, that pretty much covers my overview of the Springer Perilous. There are some smaller features like a sling mount on the bottom and printed nameplates on the side, which look pretty cool. But now it's time for the fun part, the testing. Using the included rifling designed by chance, I'll be shooting 3 different dart types today. First will be the new 1 gram dart zone bamboos, which should give the highest velocity of the bunch today. Then I have 2 heavier darts to compare. We've got 1.3 gram saber T darts, as well as a new challenger, 1.3 gram rumbling darts. With that little reference out of the way, let's begin with the chrono test.
Okay guys, so this video is going to be a lot more chrono heavy than usual. I've got 3 different types of darts to try, and I've got 3 different spring levels to try. Feel free to skip ahead so that it's not as boring for you. You can see the results at the end with the time code below. But I am going to make it a little more tolerable and only shoot 90 darts total, so 10 shots with each dart in each configuration. Starting out with the weakest of the 3 springs called K25, I'm going to use the Dart Zone 1 gram bamboo darts to start with. Here goes. 317. 320. Mind you, this is with a prime that I think a child could do. 311. 358. 312, 314, 370, 315, 362. Some of these shots are going a fair bit spicier than the others. 356. And that's all 10 of the Dart Zone 1 grammers. Let's move on to something a little heavier. This is the Saber 1.3 gram T-Dart. %, heavier, so obviously there'll be a drop in velocity. 257, 246, 255, 258, 243, 245, 307. And this spring is so light you can hear the twang of it bouncing around in there after you shoot. 288, 294, 302. That's all 10 of the 1.3 gram saber darts. Now for something I haven't actually shot before. These are the new rumbling darts, same weight as the saber, but bamboo. Let's see how they go. 278, 283, 281, 282, 270, 287, 285, 285, pretty consistent actually, 284, 285, that's all 10 of those.
Over the chrono with the weakest K25 spring, 1 gram Dart Zone bamboos average 333 FPS, 30% heavier saber darts average 269, and rumbling darts average 282. For consistency, Dart Zone bamboos and saber darts seem pretty bad in this blaster with standard deviations of 24 and 25, while rumbling darts were really consistent with a standard deviation of 4.9. We'll have to see how this actually translates to accuracy later on, but for now, let's step up a spring size to K14.
Now to give you an idea of how quick and easy the spring is to change, you literally just turn that like less than a quarter, and take the spring out, and in goes the K14. Simple as that. Again, dart zone bamboos first, 1 grammers, and then the 1.3 grams after that. Let's see how much this boosts the velocity by. 404 on a K14. 397. 458. Still quite easily primed all day long. 451. 457. 464. 398. 403. 407. 404. Must have been an error there. If you get that, you're a computer nerd. And that's all 10 of those. Let's go to heavier darts now with the Sabre 1.3 grammers. $401, still pretty high. 379. 341, I think this is the highest I've ever shot 1.3 gram darts. 377. 374. 371. 401. 376. 413. 366. And that's all 10 of those. Now it's time for Aaron Yeager and his rumbling. 1.3 grammers, but bamboo. 350. 362. 359. 355, very consistent again. 348. 371. 354, 351, 353, 354, and that's all 10 of those.
With the K14 Spring, 1 gram dart zone bamboos average an astonishing 424 feet per second. 1.3 gram Sabre darts average 379, the highest I've actually shot a 1.3 gram dart so far. And rumbling darts shot the lowest average of 355. Once again, rumbling were the most consistent in this blaster, so make your predictions now for the accuracy test, because this is the spring I'll be using later on for that. First though, let's have a look at chrono testing the K12, which is stronger.
Now, one thing I do need to show you is that with the wider gauge K12 spring, there's a different plunger to use because it won't fit inside of the one for the other springs. So I just take the K14 out, prime back the blaster, retrieve this plunger, and then put this one in. And then put the K12 in, which notably doesn't have rounded ends like the other springs. This has been cut, so it might not be as consistent, but we'll see what kind of numbers we can get, eh?
Now, as I begin testing the K12, it's worth mentioning the spring cap has a locking detent on the top, and the correct orientation should be up when installing it. Up until now, I hadn't noticed this feature and had been relatively lucky that it hadn't shot itself out.
Again, starting off with the 1 gram dart zone bamboos. Here goes. Still not that bad of a prime, actually. 461. 397. 448. That's what I dreaded happening.
So the spring cap being incorrectly installed shot itself out, landing a few meters behind me. But luckily I managed to find all of the pieces, and with it reinstalled, I continued on.
$385. $398. $396. $385. I don't know why it's lower FPS now. 394, 394, 389. Okay, I don't know why the FPS has dropped now. The first couple of shots were higher than with the K14, but now they're lower. I'll try the 1.3 gram saber darts just to see what that does. We might end up swapping that to the K14 for the accuracy test and range test later on. Saber 1.3s. 421. Jeez. 367. 327. 336. 325. 406 with a 1.3 gram dart. 400. 409. 411. 399. And that's all of the Saber 1.3 grams. Now, rumbling darts with the heaviest spring. $338, $339, $344, $345, $346, $347, $361, $346, $336, $358. And that's all the rumbling darts.
With the K12, which is the strongest of the three springs, dart zone bamboos average 404 feet per second, Saber's got 380, and rumbling shot 346. Weirdly, this stronger, much heavier to prime K12 spring actually gave an FPS drop over the K14, and after speaking with Shoeless Historian, it's most likely the pusher bottlenecking how fast that air can be transferred out of the barrel. There is a high flow brass pusher you can try with Springer Perilous if you really want to push it, but being out in the field, it does take a while to change that. I just decided to move on to the maximum range test, dropping back to the K14 spring.
Okay guys, you know the drill. I'm heading out to the road here to see how far this thing can shoot using a laser rangefinder. Once I track down where all the darts went, I've got a Talon 15 round mag loaded up with 5 of each dart, alternated them one after the other so that if my point of aim changes at all, the range results are still valid. All right, maximum range test. Let's see how it does. That's all 15. Let's go find them. Okay, so first up we have the green and blue tip 1 gram dart zone bamboo darts. They all went, all 5 of them, 77 meters. You can see they're all grouped up here, in about a meter grouping. Coming a little bit further along, as players are rocking up to the game today, we've got the blue and white tip rumbling darts, which went 87 meters. And then if we continue past those, we do have a rumbling dart even further, and that's up with all the saber darts at 100 meters. All 5 of the saber darts are within about a 2 meter spread of each other. Okay, 100 meters in freedom units is 328 feet. I have never seen a Nerf dart go that far before, and this is on a dead calm day with no breeze. And all 5 of the saber darts went that far. 1 of the rumbling darts did. The rest of the rumbling darts fell shorter. I think it was around 87. And all of the 1 gram darts and bamboos landed at 77. So I think we have our results. The saber darts go the furthest, then the rumbling, and then the dart zone.
With the range test completed, it's time to move on now to the accuracy test.
Okay guys, a couple of notes for the accuracy test. I found that 30 meters is actually way too close with this angled Picatinny rail. Aiming even at the center of the target, the darts were going way over the top of it. So instead, today I've decided to go back to 50 meters or 165 feet. That'll allow me to aim dead center on the target with this red dot sight, and they should be hitting the target. Okay guys, first up, this is the 1 gram Dart Zoom bamboo darts. Let's see how it does at 50 meters. That was a hit. I think that was a bullseye. It's a little low. That one spun out of control and never actually made it halfway to the target. Pretty close to the center there. That might have been a bull. A little lower the center. Little low. Little to the right. Little to the right. Little high. Little low and right. Little to the right. Little low and right. Missed the target entirely to the right. That one was curving in the air. That's all 15 of the 1 grammers. I expect as we step up to the heavier 1.3s, we'll see a little bit of a bump in accuracy. Just wait for Paul to drive off. Just put the red flags up to indicate that this is a firing range from a legal standpoint. So we do use gel blasters here, which are a firearm. High of center. These heavier darts carry themselves pretty well. Little high and right. High and right. High and right, almost hitting the top of the target there. Little high. High and right. That doesn't mean these are worse darts, it just means the point of aim's a little different than with the 1 grammers. Little high of center. Little high. Hit the white sign above the target. These definitely carry their weight further. Just below the white sign. Little high of center. High and right. High and right. High. High and left, I think. That's all 15 of the 1.3 gram Sabre T darts. Now for the rumbling darts. Low but centered. High and right. Missed to the right of the target. Center. Kind of a bit low, I think. To the right. High. Missed to the right. Little high and right. Missed to the left. Little low. Dropped short of the target actually. High and right. Missed to the right. Drop short. Bit to the right. Spiraled out of control, only going about 40 meters. That's all 15. Can't say I recommend the rumbling darts, but 1 gram dart zone bamboos as well as Sabre 1.3 gram darts did pretty well at 50 meters.
At a distance of 50 meters, notably 20 meters further back than I normally do this testing. And also, this is 164 feet for my American viewers. 1.3 gram rumbling darts had the worst accuracy of the 3. Multiple shots fell short of the target that aren't even shown on here. And the shots that are visible had a spread of about 150 centimeters or 1.5 meters, which is larger than the target itself. In second place, 1 gram dart zone bamboos shot a respectable 70 centimeter spread. And in first place, unsurprising if you've watched my other videos, 1.3 gram saber darts shot a 45 centimeter spread. Notably, saber darts also landed the highest up on the target, which checks out given they had the longest max range, reaching an astonishing 100 meters, which I actually haven't seen with any other dart type before. Of the 3, both dart zone bamboos and saber darts are very usable, though at this kind of range it seems the heavier weight of the saber darts gives them a bit of an edge in accuracy.
Now some of you might have noticed that despite wearing this camo outfit, there's no gameplay footage in this video. Well, there's a funny story behind that.
During the first round of the day, I had just lined up my first opponent when suddenly the back end of Springer Perilous went off like a claymore. The butt plate and the spring ended up at the back of the tower I was standing in, while the spring cap shot out of the tower and landed on the ground about 20 meters away. Surprisingly, it was intact and with the thrust bearing still in place, so I didn't have to go searching for that either. Unfortunately, it seems my incorrect use of the spring cap back during the chrono test may have weakened the plastic and it finally gave up. This is the first time Shoeless has seen this kind of failure, so I don't think it's anything to worry about if you build one of these or buy one yourself. They're also going to update the design so that the spring cap locks in no matter which orientation you have it in. So this problem won't even be possible in the future. To fix mine though, all I'll need to do is get a reprint of the rear section of the stock. Now aside from that breakage, I did really enjoy using the Springer Perilous, and I had other players comment on how light that K25 prime weight was compared to their own 300 FPS blasters. Most people at the field here are using Worker Harriers, which don't have anywhere near the air volume of Springer Perilous.
That's real light.
Real light.
That's real light.
Lighter than your Harrier.
Oh, heaps lighter than the Harrier. You prime that all day without even thinking about it.
I put a heavier spring in before. It was shooting 450. What I want you to do, I want you to shoot your Harrier. Your Harrier's doing about 300, is it?
It's probably closer to 260 or something like that.
260? Shoot your Harrier. Now shoot this, which is doing 300. Which one was lighter?
That was weirdly lighter. I wasn't expecting that.
Quite a bit lighter?
Yeah.
Considerably lighter? I put a heavier spring in this earlier, and it was shooting 450 and felt about the same as the Harrier.
Yeah, it feels, you'd almost say about half.
Half of the Harrier is for 300.
Yeah.
This has got the largest air volume of any blaster I've ever used. It's larger than Sabre. They're both 300. I just want to show you the stark contrast in difference.
That's definitely easier on the pullback.
Yep.
Yeah, I prefer this one. So, you know,
If you're someone who likes high power and wants to lighten the prime, or if you're a record chaser looking for something with an impressive air volume, I definitely think this blaster is worth looking into. Additionally, some of the features packed into this thing I can see becoming the norm for new Springers going forward. Thrust bearings after finally trying one myself. when combined with linear rails, definitely help lighten the prime. And built-in angled Picatinny rails, well, they just make sense for any long-range shooting you're going to be doing in Nerf. Plus, if you don't want to use the angle, you can just mount your sight a little bit further forward. Anyway, viewers, you can find the hardware kit at Foamdemic or complete builds from 3D Blasted Hawaii. You can find those in the links down below, and I'll also put links for all of the darts that I used in this video. So check out those links, especially saber darts, which were the winners of the accuracy test. That's all I have for you today. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Here's 2 other videos you might enjoy. And as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya!